It all began with a command that shattered the cozy hum of the diner. Hands where I can see them now. Forks froze halfway to mouths. Coffee cups trembled slightly in startled hands. Conversations were severed mid-sentence, and a heavy, charged silence flooded the room. Near the corner booth, a man elderly, poised, and composed did not even flinch. He looked up slowly, with a patience that only age and hard-earned wisdom could lend. The door slammed open wider as two white police officers barged in, boots pounding across the tiled floor like war drums. Chairs scraped violently as they shoved their way through the narrow aisles. Sergeant Cole Maddox, a man grizzled by years on the force but hardened by something far less noble, pointed a stiff finger at the old man in the booth. "You, get up. You fit the description," he barked. The old man blinked once, then calmly reached for the polished wood cane resting against his seat. His voice, low and steady, replied, "Son, I think you've got the wrong man." But Maddox wasn't listening. His mind was made up long before he'd set foot in that diner. "Stand up now, or I'll drag you out myself." Beside him, Officer Trent Dawson, younger and burning with the volatile eagerness of unchecked authority, already had his handcuffs drawn. The man's name was Mr. Samuel Reed, 74 years old, a fixture of the community. Every Tuesday, for as long as anyone could remember, he made the same quiet pilgrimage to that diner, ordered the same coffee and cornbread, and sat peacefully reading a worn leather-bound book. No one in the neighborhood had ever seen him raise his voice, let alone cause trouble. But today was different. Without warning, Maddox shoved Samuel Reed against the wall, the sound of the impact reverberating through the diner like a slap to the face of decency. A woman at a nearby table gasped. Another, younger woman pulled out her phone and began recording. "That's Mr. Reed," someone whispered urgently. "He's a veteran. He fought for this country." But the officers didn't care. They roughly forced his arms behind his back and clamped the cuffs on him as if he were some common criminal. Samuel winced. His right shoulder, injured decades ago during his service in Vietnam, hadn't healed properly even after all these years. Yet he said nothing. He simply met Maddox's eyes with a look so unshakably steady it made the younger officer falter for a brief, shameful second. "You boys are making a big mistake," Samuel said, voice still calm. Dawson sneered. "Yeah? You got warrants, old man? Carrying drugs or weapons?" Samuel shook his head, the ghost of a weary smile crossing his lips. "No, son. Just honor medals and a clean conscience." But they hauled him out anyway. His cane was thrown aside, clattering helplessly to the floor. They shoved him into the back of a cruiser like a sack of trash, his forehead pressed against the cold window, his eyes staring out tired, betrayed, silent. Things only worsened at the station. They locked him into a holding cell without so much as reading his rights, denied him the opportunity to make a phone call, and laughed among themselves as they filled out a fabricated report claiming he resisted arrest. In another section of the report, they listed him as matching the description of a robbery suspect, a suspect half his age. Back at the diner, the teenage girl who had recorded the scene uploaded the video online with a simple, searing caption. "Local hero treated like trash. Do you know this man?" Within minutes, the video was spreading like wildfire. Meanwhile, 20 miles away, in the sleek, glass-walled offices of a federal agency, a secure phone buzzed. Elaine Mercer, director of special investigations at the FBI, glanced at the screen and froze. The name flashing across it made her sit upright, heart pounding in a way she had not felt in years. Samuel Reed. Without hesitation, she grabbed her keys and barked orders in her phone. "Mobilize a team. We're leaving now." Back at the holding cell, Samuel sat quietly on the cold bench, idly rubbing his sore wrist. His posture was relaxed, almost resigned, but there was a spark in his eyes that refused to dim. A rookie officer, passing by, sneered through the bars. "You got any family, old man?" Samuel smiled faintly, almost pityingly. "I got people, and they don't play games." The officer chuckled and walked off, blissfully unaware of the firestorm he was about to witness. because Samuel Reed was not just another old veteran. He had served in 3 wars: Vietnam, Desert Storm, and the more secretive battles of the Cold War. He had been part of a classified unit so elite it no longer officially existed. And more pertinently for that moment, he had mentored and maintained close ties with one of the most powerful figures in federal law enforcement, Elaine Mercer. And Elaine Mercer was on her way. In the back room of the station, Maddox and Dawson lounged, laughing carelessly. "Did you see his face when we cuffed him?" Dawson hooted. "Yeah, like he was about to cry." "Some crazy old fool," Maddox replied, shaking his head. "Probably making up half those war stories, too." Neither noticed the dark SUVs pulling up outside. Neither heard the measured steps of men and women in black suits filing into the station like an incoming tide. The receptionist looked up, startled, as a woman approached the desk with cold fire in her eyes. Elaine Mercer didn't waste time. She flashed her badge. "FBI, where's Samuel Reed?" The entire station seemed to freeze. Blake Maddox swaggered into view, sensing an opportunity to posture. "He's in holding. Who wants to know?" Elaine stepped forward until she was mere inches from him, her voice low but cutting like glass. "I do," she said, voice trembling not with fear but with rage. "I'm his goddaughter." The blood drained from Maddox's face. He opened his mouth, fumbling for words, but Elaine cut him off. "You arrested a decorated war hero without a warrant, without probable cause, without even the decency of a phone call." Agents had already fanned out across the station. One pulled up security footage. Another retrieved body cam footage. Elaine brushed past the stunned officers as if they were nothing but furniture, heading straight for the cell where Samuel sat. When he looked up and saw her, the hard mask of his face cracked into a tender smile. "Hey there, pumpkin," he said warmly. Tears welled in Elaine's eyes, but her voice stayed strong. "Let's get you out of here, Uncle Sam." She turned sharply to the officers behind her. "You have 5 seconds to open this door." Keys clattered hurriedly. The door swung open, and Elaine was at his side instantly, supporting him as he rose slowly, dignity intact despite the abuse he had suffered. "You okay?" she asked, voice raw. "I've had worse," Samuel said quietly. "But these boys? They're about to have a very bad day." 30 minutes later, the station was transformed. Federal agents filled every corridor. Reports were being pulled. Body cams were reviewed. Statements were taken. At the center of it all stood Elaine, a tower of fury and command, reading from a thick stack of charges. "Sergeant Cole Maddox, Officer Trent Dawson, you are both under federal investigation for unlawful arrest, excessive force, racial profiling, obstruction of justice, and falsification of official records." Maddox gaped, stunned. "You can't be serious." "You thought wrong," Elaine snapped. "This man is a national hero, and you treated him like garbage because of the color of his skin. That's not just wrong, it's criminal." Dawson tried to make a break for the door, but 2 agents closed in, blocking his path. "I didn't know. I was just following orders," he cried desperately. Elaine's eyes flashed. "That excuse didn't work in the 60s, she said, her voice slicing through the room. "It doesn't work now." Outside, a crowd had gathered. The video of Samuel's arrest had gone viral. Protesters held signs, chanting his name. Veterans showed up in full dress uniforms, forming a silent, powerful line of support. News crews broadcasted the scene live. The mayor appeared, grave-faced, and the chief of police followed, stumbling through a public apology on camera. Samuel Reed stood beside Elaine, a steady presence in the chaos, the embodiment of resilience. "I don't want revenge," he said, his voice calm but strong. "I just want respect." Justice, however, came regardless. Maddox and Dawson were led away in handcuffs, faces pale, heads bowed just as they had humiliated Samuel hours earlier. Their careers were over. Elaine slipped her arm around Samuel's, her voice gentle for the first time that day. "Come on, Uncle Sam. Let's get you that cornbread." Samuel chuckled, the sound warm and unbroken. "And coffee. Don't forget the coffee." When they walked back into the diner, every person inside rose to their feet in a spontaneous standing ovation. His old booth was waiting. His coffee was free. And that day, across America, people witnessed something extraordinary. They saw what happens when you mistake a hero for a criminal. And they saw, too, what happens when justice itself walks through the door not with fanfare, not with vengeance, but with steady hands, clear eyes, and an unshakable will to set things right.